Guys, hey, thank you for joining. Today we've got James Roberts on. James, how you doing, my man? Good to see you, bro. Well, I told the last group, I said, I wanted everybody to see what growth looks like. So that's why I have you on here, man, because you've been growing. And I'm not talking about height wise, which we did stand up next to each other. You'd be taller. True, but because I run the podcast studio, I intentionally made my chair higher so everybody thinks I'm bigger than you today. But when you look at what you guys have done, you've like 4x the last like 90 days. And so what I want you to talk about is what do you think? Like, for one, this is what I see, man. I see a culture that's having fun, where people like highlight and spotlight each other. People want the best for each other. When somebody's doing well, they recognize it, they appreciate it. It's a lot of just good talk, good language, no gossip, complaining, whining, or excuses. You've got a really good culture. And I do believe that that's essential when it comes to allow for the right growth. Can you kind of talk about some of the things that you believe have led you to developing that good culture in the organization?
Wow, it's a loaded question. It really comes down to family. So we run Midgard as a family. So everyone, no matter if you have a financial tie to somebody or not, we are giving. And you're giving to give, not with the expectation of getting something back. So to me, that's the key.
Dude, that's very well said, bro. That is the key. And I think that could be the whole dang podcast, man, is like giving without intention to get something back in return for it, man. It's being a cheerful giver. And the reality is, man, like I do see, your business being blessed, and not to like, pull scriptures into it, but that's what God says. He says he's going to bless the cheerful giver. Right. And when you give without any kind of expectation to receive, man, you're going to get it back, shaken down, pressed together, and running over, man, to a much higher regard. And that's going to be blessed. It's that right heart position. And, integrity, one of their core values is family. Like that's one of the things that they focus on. And we've seen it here at the office, like things that they've kind of brought from a higher level that they do from their corporate level, which is like, the integrity. What is it called, Casey, where they do the Inspire podcast, but they'll send us stuff to do, right? Oh, yeah. I'm forgetting. It's like during Medicare and stuff like that. But we've done some of those things together. Their whole goal.
It was ice cream socials, things like that.
Yeah. And they got the Super Bowl one where they had, the fun little kind of tailgate party that they created for the integrity. It was like the Medicare stuff, but they try to make it a family, right? Because it's one thing. Everybody's, typically you're part of a family. But some families kind of suck. You know what I mean? Like, that's just a fact. Like, sometimes they kind of suck. The good news of Family First Life, like you can kind of get adopted into any family, dude. And I've seen that. Like, you don't have to, you can say, well, Paul, I would love to be a part of that family. Well, just come hang out. Like, dude, you got people just come hang out. Like, come, you're included. But talk about, how do you, so when you create that family culture, what are some specific things you do to really kind of get that, integrated into your overall culture and your team?
Yeah, it kind of starts from the tip of the spear, so to speak. We run it where no one is above anyone. So you always talk about not being the magic. Excuse me. I'm not the magic. And I don't even try to be. Like, I'm uncomfortable doing this podcast because I like being in the back. So Trey, for example, he spoke at one of the events here. He was like, when you first start, you're in the back. Then as you start to progress and get better, you're in the front. And then you want to move to the back again. And that's like where I'm at. I'm like, look, dude, I want to stay in the back. Let's push everybody forward and highlight everyone. So even if someone's writing, let me give a shout out to Mike that's on the team. We had a team Zoom today. We highlighted him and I had J4 interview him because he's the hardest worker on Zoom. His numbers aren't reflective of that, but his work ethic is amazing. And just by that work ethic, he's providing value to the rest of the group because they're picking up on that. So you have James and Jeremiah, who's downstairs. Obviously, their production is higher, but they're like, dude, I look at you because of that work ethic. If I could just pick up a little bit of that, man, where am I going to go?
Dude, that's so powerful, man. I mean, because think about, like, it's so easy to pick out what the person's deficient in, right? And whatever you highlight, whatever you magnify, you multiply. And I see that with you guys. You're looking for the reasons of why they can be successful.
Right.
Because guess what every individual is doing? Like, what do you think he's doing? He's looking at the reasons why he can't be successful, right? Like the self-doubt, I'm not good enough. And we all do that, man. So he's busy and maybe not, but I know I do it. And I think everybody does it. You got that little voice in your head that's really come to kind of kill, steal, and destroy the dream or the objectives or the goal that you've got in front of you. And we do such a bad job a lot of times in negating that. We just entertain it and we spotlight the reasons why we can't. And maybe he's looking at it and saying, man, I can't go out there and be successful. Look how good they are and look how bad I'm and all these things. The reality is that's a lie. And dude, you've done such a good job when what you're talking about is you're good at going in and getting their eyes off of a lie and to get them to focus on a truth and having it be a truth that will actually lead them to success. Like, dude, I'll take work ethic over skill any day of the week. Why? Because work ethic will eventually build skill, because this is something that anybody can eventually get good at if they just keep with it long enough. And we've got hundreds of stories that point to different people that took a different path, but they still ended up there because they just simply didn't give up.
Right. And then if I could jump in on that one. So to kind of give you an idea, our team family is this way. It doesn't matter if you want to go for a hill, a valley, Mount Everest. We have someone within the group or even in this office like yourself where we can scale and gain the knowledge to get that business partner to where they want to go. Now, picture like I'm holding your hand right now. I'm holding your hand and I'm not going to let go. And no one in the team is going to let go either. The only way you're going to fail is if you literally amputate your own arm, because we're not letting you go. And I truly believe that. We got you no matter what's going on. So, if someone ever, I know for a fact, everyone within Midgard, we sleep good at night because we're going to help you. And no one will ever be able to say Team Midgard did not provide me A, B, and C support, because that just would be incorrect. And the rest of the team members will put a squash on that because we're all here for you.
Well, dude, you've also done a great job in helping people come in and play a part where they can all grab the rope and lift as well. Like when you said James hopped on and he interviewed, was it Michael?
Correct.
Like you could have easily got on and interviewed Michael. Like, why would you have James do it?
You're asking me why?
Yeah.
Because it's going into the leadership phase. I want to see him and everyone grow. So like, that's me stepping back and allowing someone else to do it. I am not the magic. So, and we also had other team members on there that was interviewing. This was the first Zoom that we actually had where we highlighted 3 business partners instead of 1. And I had multiple interviewers, which is pretty cool. So everybody is the juice at Team Midgard.
Yeah. And what that does is it raises up leaders, man. So like it starts to get people to create, to grab onto a new identity. And it's the same reason why when we sit back and I talked to Casey and Michelle about putting together the BOMs at the office here. Like I've not done one, like we got little James doing tonight. We had Jeremiah, but that's how you grow and develop. And I'm thankful that when I got in the business, I had somebody do the same thing for me. Like even when I wasn't like maybe at a level that you could say, oh, that's justified for them to go do X, Y, or Z. It was just growing me, challenging me, making me uncomfortable. Like the other day I had, I was doing a workout at the house in the living room. So I was just doing push-ups and jump ropes before church. And Penelope, she's my 7-year-old. So I'm doing push-ups and she hops on my back to make it heavier,
Nice.
And so she's on my back and now she probably weighs, I don't know, 40, 50 pounds or whatever she weighs. And I'm doing the push-ups, but as she's doing it, she's like, Dad, you got this. You got this. She starts rubbing my back, like, Dad, you got this. And I'm like, I thought about like, dude, that's such a great example of how leadership should look. Like she's putting weight on me to make me uncomfortable, to make it that much harder, to grow, to stretch me and have me actually grow. And at the same time, she's encouraging me though, like, you got this, you got this. And that's really what I think effective leadership looks like, putting people in uncomfortable situations so they can grow and develop. And at the same time, highlight what they've got.
You did that to me last week. And I don't even think you knew that. I didn't want to do the BDM and you called me and asked if I would do it. So I actually did it. And I was nervous, but I did it and I think it helped. And I think by, like you said, allowing other people within the office to actually do them, it's going to grow their business.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it'll grow them. And also it'll help them start making choices that fall more in line with that identity, man. And we all We all need it. We all need to hit that next level. Like everybody watching this today, you got an other self. You got like a 2.0 version of who you are, like you got that next level. And it's our job to be the ones that spotlight that and see it in them. Like I think you're a good Samuel. What I mean by that is, when you look at like the story in the Bible, so Samuel went to go pick the next king, right? And he had, was it eight, Casey? It was David and 7 brothers, right?
Yeah.
So he goes in
Don't ask me.
to pick. Well, I knew who I was asking. Casey's basically a minister. So he goes in, and Jesse, David's dad's like showing him all the brothers, shows him 7 brothers. And most of these brothers, James, they look like more of a king. Like they've got the right stature. The first one, he thought for sure, this has got to be the next king that God's going to anoint, that I'm called to anoint. He looked kind of like the current king, right? Which was Saul, like great looking, tall, like the right stature, like that's got to be a king, communicated well. And he kept going, and he's like, no, this is not him. This is not him. And then he finally asked Jesse, like, dude, do you have anybody else? He's like, well, I got this one of my sons. He's out there just tending the sheep. He's just a shepherd. And he even used that word just, and it's intentional in the word to show how he thought of his boy. He's the youngest. He's just out there. He wasn't even considered. He was not qualified by any means. And what Jesse was almost embarrassed to show him to Samuel, right? And he says, well, you got to go get him. And he said, I'm not leaving until you go get him. Goes all the way out to the field, and he gets David, the little shepherd boy. And he says, he's the king, and he anoints him. And now David had to go through like 20 something years before he actually became the king. It didn't happen right then and there, because he had to do a lot of things that he had to go through, like the lion, the bear, all those things to build himself up where he could see himself as a king, so he wouldn't mess up being a king. But Samuel saw something in David that his own dad didn't see. And I think that's what we're all called to do, is seeing things in people that maybe they don't see, and maybe the closest people in them haven't seen. And therefore they're stuck with an identity that's not accurate to what God's put in them and where they could be called to go do. And I think you do that pretty well, dude. I see you work in the group, and you're a Samuel to a lot of people. You're like, man, I see this in you, and you'll spotlight it. And your recognition is great too. You're looking for ways to recognize, like you just had. So James just hit sales manager for the first time. Jeremiah just went out there, and he got close to 20 families, right? But we gave him a pass. We rounded up, and if we rounded up, he would have hit 20 because it was on the high side of 19. But what did you do when he did that? What?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I actually typed you. I said, hey, are you available? We're going to be highlighting Jeremiah. So we have a thing within Team Midgard is there's several layers, but the first layer is we have this Thor hammer. So if you ever look at our logo, we have the Thor hammer. Casey, put that up there. Nope. Okay, but
you thought he was quick on.
Yeah, I thought he was.
Hey, they tell you he's highlighting the David and you case. You see that, bro?
Oh, there you go. Okay, but I'll keep going. So between 15K and 24,999, you'll receive the first level Thor hammers, and we got them on stage. We had some AC/DC running, and we had you down there and the rest of the team, and we were pumping them up, and he was issued his first Thor hammer. Thank you, Casey. I appreciate you. And but as everyone levels up, there's different phases. We have 5 different layers. So yeah, little things like that. So if you have a team right now,
but you said how many you have? What
we have 4 to 5 different levels.
What does that look like? Can you break it down as far as what you do for those levels?
Well, it's just each Thor hammer is actually weighted. So that's a 15-pound. So when he was trying to lift it, that was like, and he was struggling, he couldn't lift it all the way up. Yeah, sorry, Jeremiah. That was a 15-pound.
Well, I mean, it's embarrassing, Jeremiah. You need to hit the freaking gym up here. I mean, what are you doing, bro?
But it's like a 15, a 25, a 35, 45, and a 55-pound Thor kettlebell.
So as you hit higher levels, it gets heavier?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's our thing within the group. There you go. So it looks literally almost like that hammer, but it's weighted.
Yeah, I love that, dude. I mean, and isn't it fun coming up with like some things like that too?
Absolutely. And but here's the key. I have a saying within politics. A lot of you guys don't know I'm a local official here in my city in Hesperia. So I have a saying, the status quo is the death of progress. I'll repeat that. Status quo is the death of progress. So being a little elder statesman within the group, we have young people with good ideas, and I'm constantly innovating. So the boys that came down, they were like, hey, we should come up with a thunderbolt, like if they do certain things and you could attach it to the hammer. So there's a lot of things we have coming down the pipe. So if you currently have a group and the culture isn't there, I think you have to do an autopsy on yourself and on the organization, because it's hard to kind of change culture when you have a culture. It's like they're like on a football team, they're firing the GM, the coach, and everybody. They're like trading people, because as they try to switch to the new culture, you may still have some apples up in there that got some mold on them. And if those apples are too close to the other team members, it's going to kind of, get on there as well.
Yeah.
So you got to have an autopsy on your group. And sometimes you got to cut bait to rebuild, and it's okay. And then you go, okay, well, I won't do A, B, and C next time, but we're going to keep it pushing, and we're going to even grow even bigger and better. See what I'm saying?
Dude, 100%, man.
Yeah.
That's so good, bro. Like I remember Mike had this group, and I'll leave the name out, but dude, it was just like, it was like a batch of bad apples, and it was just contaminating everybody else, like complaining, whining, just like it was a bad batch of apples in the organization. And it was hard for him to cut it because it's volume, right? So he's thinking like, man, this is volume, and I want the guy to win. I mean, maybe he can change, but he just wasn't. And the moment that he cut the bait, like you said, dude, his group, and I remember witnessing it, dude, they like 3x'd in like 6 months. And they went from like doing a couple, 300,000 a month, and they just boom, went to like 1 million that quick when they cut the bait. And that's absolutely right, man. You got to change something. This guy was a manager, and it just, but when you change, the thing is this too, like you got to create an environment where people want to go and share their ideas. Like they feel like they're valued. You know what I mean? Like, that I hold some value to it.
Right.
And you're not like, and it's like an open door policy where people can say, man, what about this? This would be really cool. And this would be fun. And then as they're sharing into it, now they're a part of it. So now when it happens, they're like, man, I'm included. Right. And I remember, sitting back and thinking like, how can we include more people and give them some things to do? Because that's how you create that good team where it's like, everybody's got a role. And even like, with the meetings, the BOMs, we're looking at like having somebody like, all right, who sets the room, who makes sure the temperature is correct, who's greeting the people that are new, and kind of creating an environment where people have different roles, because that makes all the difference in the world, man. When they can show up to something and say, man, I really don't feel like it, man, I really don't want to, but if I don't go, who's going to get the tables ready? Who's going to get the chairs out?
Right. And kind of want to tell a story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So this is going to be an Oprah moment. I'm going to see if I get you to cry. It ain't going to be me.
Casey's going to be the one.
Yeah. So we had a, Paul, a couple of weeks ago, or even a month ago, we talked about our Arizona trip, and it was very spiritual. I don't know if we was too close to Sedona or what, but, they always say Sedona has some crazy energy. So we were out in Scottsdale, and we had a good 18 of our team members there. And, we would congregate. Some people were staying up to like 2:30 in the morning, just talking. And then people would group up and start crying because they're telling each other some personal stuff that they would have never told each other. That's how tight we are. So I want to talk about that there, but then giving. So Tanisha and I, we flipped the bill for everything. Like, I didn't want you to pay for nothing, and Elizabeth and the girls, they were like, hey, we're going to Starbucks. Can we get you a coffee? I'm like, no, let me give you some money, because that's just the way we are. We just like to give. And they bought me some coffee, and I didn't even know how to feel about that. You know what I mean? When we got back to the office the following week, Elizabeth and Maddie came in and gave me a coffee from Starbucks. And Elizabeth goes, are you getting emotional on me? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Just playing the big role. But I was emotional. And the reason why I got emotional, because I was like, the girls get it. They get it. It's about just giving. You know what I mean? I didn't even ask for that coffee. And it was just the little things. It could have been a Snicker bar. I don't care. But they were giving, and they didn't expect nothing in return. So like for everybody that has a team, You just want to lock in and honestly love your team members. And if you love your team members, trust me, you're going to wear off on them and they're going to start to get it. And then it's contagious, because I have no doubt that we're going to 3 and 4X this, because in the beginning of the year, you had all of the team leaders say, where did you want to be in 12 months? I don't even know if you remember doing that.
Of course I remember. I got it written down, man.
Okay. And my number was very low.
Mm-hmm. It was very low.
Yeah. And you were
embarrassing low.
Yeah, it was embarrassing low. And you were like, hey, this, and this. And I'm like, in my subconscious, I'm like, nah, it ain't going to happen. And now, since I've seen that the other team members have gotten it, oh man, everybody's group is going to win.
I love that, man. That's so good. What are you going to end up at the end of the year?
I'm thinking $500,000 easy, at least 500 minimum.
100%, dude.
Yeah.
No, absolutely no reason why you can't. Well, dude, this was so good. And even like just thinking about like, what values are important to you. So everybody watching this, like, what values do you have? And when you really hold on to good values, and you think on those frequently, consistently, it's easier to make the right choices. Then you it's not so much thought. It's not so much energy. It's like, no, this is my value. So this is therefore what I do based off of this value. And a value of giving, a value of generosity, man. Like, dude, it's such a big deal. The generous person is going to be blessed. And when you have that in an organization where everybody's giving and generous, well, guess what you're creating? A blessed organization. And that's an organization I want to work with. That's an organization that I want to be partnered with.
And just if I could dovetail, like my family, the Roberts Way, we have a family foundation. We run it with my brother. And since our kids were small, on the holiday times, this is how the foundation actually started. We would make peanut butter jelly sandwiches for, homeless in the community. Now we've upgraded because we have the funding now, but we do like these hygiene kits. And we put our foundation sweaters on and we go in the community. I live here in Hesperia, California, and we give these hygiene kits out. So that's what my wife and I kind of instilled in our children, and I know it sounds bad because we're the older ones in the group, that the team is our children, so to speak, and it's just cool when everybody gets it. But I know I'm preaching to the choir. So,
well, dude, you're definitely not, preaching necessarily to the choir. But I do believe that, like, even if like reminders are so essential. So somebody's like, man, I get this, dude. What they're doing right now is saying like, how can I get it more? How can I give more? What can I do more of, and create that culture of giving? And it is important, man. I remember we did the Love My City event, and we kind of pulled in, and you showed up for that event, and,
right.
Just giving back to the community. They were coming by, we're giving them money, and it's just, that's what it's all about, man. And it doesn't matter what age you are, like that's how you were created. You're created to give, right? God gave everything with his son. Like, we're created to give. And when you watch, like, even like my little ones, dude, when they were giving, like their joy and their expression on their face was so much different than even what it looks like when they're getting on Christmas. And it's pretty bizarre. Like, even at that age, when you're so selfish, where it's like, right. Mine, like most of my kids, their first word they learned was like mine, and they're yelling at their sisters and stuff. But once they give, man, like, it's just like, dude, it changes everything. And so, give the opportunity, guys, today. If you're like, what can I give? Well, you're worth it working with FFL. You know what you give? You give somebody a shot to go out there and make a difference for their family, right? That's what you can give them. You can talk to them about the FFL opportunity, and you just don't know what one conversation is going to lead to. Man, I would have never known at the gym at the country club that when I hung up and Tanisha, that I didn't know at all, a complete stranger, said, Americo, like, you work with Americo? And I'm like, yeah, I work with Americo. Do you work with Americo? She said, no, my husband does. And, me kind of being persistent, getting on the Facebook group page and messaging, texting, and saying, hey, let's get together for lunch. And eventually that will lead to you guys and what you're doing now. And if that never happened, if I never had just that conversation, we wouldn't have an unbelievable organization that we're getting, that we're able to watch and connect with, and that you make me better. You make the office better. You make other people better. That would never happen if it wasn't just a conversation. Right. And you guys all have the ability just to have a conversation. The person that's out there right now that can grow a massive business, that can make a massive impact, they might just be one conversation away. So, man, thank you so much, James. This has been invaluable information. Guys, make it a massive week. Go out there, kill this thing, be strong, stay steadfast, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.